So we're going to take, first of all, ourselves down onto the floor, and we'll come into reclined position. And then we'll take banana pose. So we know our banana pose. You can either roll to the side or use the hands to come down. You've got plenty of room behind. Now I'm starting with my head facing what would be the front of the mat. I take a hand up towards the sky, give them a little stretch out, and then interlace the fingers and lengthen away. Down, just let the shoulders open out a little bit, so wriggle around till it feels comfortable. And then I'm going to take hold of my right wrist and just shimmy towards the left. Once I've done a comfortable distance, I'll lengthen my legs out down the center line of the mat. Take a breath, and then slowly bring the legs towards the corner edge of the left side of the mat. And as I do that, I want to be careful that my right hip stays connected to the ground. As you move your legs across, there will be a tendency for it to lift away. So you have to kind of wriggle your bottom round a little bit and get 2 cheeks worth of buttocks down the floor. And then we're into our banana pose. You can turn the head to the left as well. So nice gentle stretch down the side of the body. We want to look after the nerves in the spine, particularly around that well, I can't remember, I've got a blank there. Thinking of SI joint. It's not the SI joint, but it's another one there. One of those back muscles. It's got lots of nerves in it. It will come to me in a minute. I can't remember why. Well, I can remember, I can't remember. That's a bit strange, isn't it? Sciatic, that's it. Sometimes the words just disappear. And hopefully the ribs are starting to feel like it's a little easier to breathe. You can, in fact, enhance the pose a little further by crossing the right leg over the left, just at the ankle. I'm just about to change over, so I really should have said that 3 minutes ago. But it's not great for everyone. If that sciatic nerve is troublesome, if you have a bit of a history there, then you would be better off keeping the feet and the legs flat to the floor. We'll just change the grip over as we come back into the center, and we'll take the shoulders over to the right. Again, just wriggle around. And then when you feel ready, take the legs over to the right as well. So this is how we get that nice curve down the side of the body, and why we call it the banana pose. Make a little adjustment, nice and slow, just moving the hips around underneath, getting them flat to the floor. So really is a side bend whilst lying down. And turning the head towards the right. I've got mine facing the opposite way just so that I can keep an eye on the clock. And slowly bring ourselves back into the center again. So moving the feet first, shoulders second. And then as you bring the hands and arms back down, just wait a couple of seconds until you're ready to roll onto your front. And we're going to move ourselves into Sphinx pose. So the elbows directly underneath the shoulders, about shoulder distance apart, palms facing down. And in the yin practice, we let the spine go very soft and the buttocks as well. See they're about hip distance apart, heels roll out a little bit. And we actually let the chest sink down so the shoulders stay high. They kind of start to lift up around the ears a little bit. Now, rather than letting the shoulders round forwards, see if you can let the shoulders relax back. And then as your chest drops down to the floor, your shoulder blades will naturally get squeezed together a little bit for you, just by your body weight drawing you down. Head position is really a matter of choice. Some people like to look directly ahead. Some people like to hang their head completely down to the floor. Some people like to be in the middle. So you choose what flavor of porridge you like to work with. It's getting a little bit of compression into the lower discs in the spine. We started with the curves to the side, so we've got the lateral loading into the, particularly the lower lumbar, which is what we're really affecting here. We're getting a little bit in the thoracic, in the upper middle back, and we're getting a lot into the shoulders. So all of the supporting muscles getting a stretch and a little bit into the tendons and the arms as well. Now we'll start to let ourselves come back down to the floor for half frog. So bring the hands underneath the chin. We'll bring the feet back onto the center line, so the toes and the thighs touch. And then I'm going to start taking my left leg out to the side, about 90 degrees to the body. Let the shin run down the line of the mat, toes pointing out, and then turn my head to the left as well. Again, I'm going to be facing the wrong way around to what I've just suggested, so that I can keep an eye on the clock. And we're trying to let that front hip open out and the hip and the pelvis actually sink back level or more level to the floor. Big muscles. If there's any tension in your shoulders, have a little wriggle round and notice that as you release those, a magic opening happens in the hips as well. They are connected. Now we'll begin to bring that left foot back onto the mat. Slide your foot into the side of your right leg and then slide the foot out down the mat. So you don't really lift the knee or the thigh away from the floor at all at any time. And then we just slowly take the right leg out, 90 degrees-ish for the thigh and the shin and the foot. Again, we're trying to let that groin open out. You probably can feel a little bit of a line in the pelvis that's digging into the mat on the left side. Ideally, one day, you would feel that pressure on both sides as the groin is completely opened out. And that would happen only if the combination of your hip socket and your hip femur head are accommodating and able to take that kind of range of motion. Some of us, we just end up with bones bumping into bones, and it would never happen. So we don't put any effort or weight into this other than sheer gravity and body weight. And then that means that any opening and releasing of muscles is through concentration and conscious thought to let those muscles release and guide down. About another minute here. Remember again to just check whether you start to build any stress in the shoulders, and if wriggling around helps, take that option. Okay, so we'll bring that foot back on to the center line, slide down till both hips are flat to the floor, give them a little wriggle out gently. Lift the head, and we're going to come into cat's tail pose. So I'm going to come onto my left side. So I'm looking towards the screen. I'm going to bring the block underneath the back of my head. So I really want the block to begin sort of where my ear is going to come down to, because as I roll that way, I want to make sure the block is a little bit further behind me rather than front. So I've got a nice line down my torso. My heels are in line, so there's about a 45-degree bend here at the moment. I'm placing one hand on top of the other. I'm just letting that head sit down on top of the block. I'm going to lengthen out the bottom leg completely and lengthen out the top leg and just swing that forwards a comfortable distance, keeping the big toe and the foot attached to the ground. When you're ready, I'm going to bend the knee of the bottom leg and start to bring that heel in towards my bottom and just kind of use my toes to wiggle it in along the floor to get a little closer. And I start to draw my right arm across my chest and lay my shoulder down onto the floor. Take the arm out, wiggle the shoulders underneath a little bit, and then I'm going to take the hand down and see if I can connect with my foot and help draw that foot in towards my bottom, laying the right shoulder down as close as I can to the floor, a little wriggle around just very gently. And then I want to keep that top leg out in front, comfortable angle, supported and resting on the floor, rather than floating around in fresh air. So I just want to enjoy the stretch through the spine. And you'll find that you get a big stretch around the sort of top of the glutes into the IT band, sort of into that area of the hip flexor. You can take the head to look over to your right shoulder. Again, I'm looking the opposite way, so I can keep my eyes on the clock. And it doesn't matter if the shoulder doesn't get down to the floor. It's just moving in that direction. Getting a big stretch across the front of the chest. Getting some rotation into the spine. Getting that little outer hip experience. Getting a little bit of stress into the knee joint and the ankles. There's a lot going on. Slowly release. Legs back in, roll onto the spine. I'm going to roll over to the opposite side. Move the block just a little bit. Hands out in front. Heels align with the body. Going to very gently lengthen out. Bottom leg down the center line, top leg hangs out in front. Slowly bend the knee, bring the heel in towards the buttock. Inch your foot a little closer. Wriggle the shoulders underneath. As you rotate around. See if you can take your hand back to find your foot. Sometimes a little lift helps. And then see how that feels. Now, one thing that can happen is you start with your bottom leg on the center line of the mat, and it's a nice straight line. And you bend your knee, and your knee comes forward. So just make sure that that bottom knee is as far over to the opposite side you started on as you can manage. Again, we'll just release gently. Knees back in. Come onto our spine. I'm going to roll gently onto my right side and lift. Take a breath at the bottom. And then exhale. We come into butterfly pose. So when you're ready, I'm going to bring the soles of the feet together, but I want the distance between my ankle and my knee to be about the same between my knee and my hip. Simple as that. I'm going to wriggle a little bit to get onto the front edge of the sitting bones in case your sitting bones are the square variety rather than the round ones. You don't get a choice, you just get what you get. And then we'll bring hands onto the shins, take a little breath. And I'm going to drop my chin in towards my chest and let my head kind of sink straight down rather than forwards. So for that to happen successfully, there's a little bit of a tilt in the pelvis going backwards. Diaphragm compresses in, shoulders kind of hunch forwards a little bit, the neck hangs down. So we've got about another minute here. It's quite a long hold. So we're working predominantly into the spine, stretching out all the muscles, obviously the big muscles, but the little intrinsic muscles that hold the vertebrae together in place and attach bone to bone. Each of those having a little tendon in there as well. And we're also stretching the rear face of the discs and compressing the front edge. So getting that useful, youthful input, compress and release into the discs that builds the nourishment back into the discs. It's the only way that they really achieve rehydration and absorption of all the nutrients they need to stay healthy. We'll begin to lift ourselves back up. Tilt the pelvis forwards a little bit. Lengthen the spine, roll the shoulders back. Now we're going to come into the caterpillar pose. You can do this with the legs flat to the floor, or you can take the bolster and place that underneath the back of the thighs. So if you don't have a bolster, it could be a nice thick rolled up blanket or a couple of cushions that you've kind of folded over if they're able to do that. And the only reason is we're trying to put a bend in the knees so that the knees don't get forced down and jammed into the joints of the kneecap. So it doesn't matter whether it's half a bolster deep or whether it's a whole bolster deep, just a little bit of lift. Then we kind of sit on the front edge of the sitting bones. And this time we're going to take the hands forwards and roll into that. So we're going to come deeper with the muscles in the spine. I'm not taking the hands anywhere or stretching or reaching particularly. I'm just letting the head hang. And that's the benefit of, if you find in your seated forward fold that you struggle to get your diaphragm to reach your thighs, well, this version we can lift the thighs towards the diaphragm. Makes it a little bit easier, more accessible. So we'll take a little breath from there and lift slowly back up. Move the bolster out of the way and take it towards the front of the mat a little bit more. Allow the legs to open out as wide as you can comfortably. And then I'm going to turn the body towards the left leg. And I'm going to take another forward fold over that thigh. We keep the hands wider than the shoulders. You might find that you kind of lean into your outside hand a little bit more. That's not a problem. So a straddle pose. And we use the exhale to lift up slowly. Rotate across. So line the heart up with the opposite thigh. Hands a little wider than shoulders, as we discussed before. And then fold over. Now the leg to just find its own place. For me, the leg tends to roll out to the side a little bit progressively. If you find that a bit sore underneath the heel, you can just put a towel or something underneath. Again, we try and let the chest and the shoulders sink down. So if you need to kind of wriggle around a little bit or adjust in the middle of the pose, that's not a problem. Again, we use the hands to press into the floor to lift back up. And hands come underneath the legs just to draw them back in. I'm going to tuck the ankles in, crossing the legs, and just roll over onto the shins to come up onto all fours, ready for cat-cow. So I'm going to spread the fingers out nice and wide, bring the hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Knees are about hip distance apart and the feet are as well. And then I'm going to start to draw the chest forwards, roll the shoulders back, belly in, and then tilt the pelvis and round the spine, lifting the middle back up towards the sky, pressing the hands into the floor to get as much space as I can, and then drawing forwards. And exhaling out. The next time you lift your spine up towards the sky, take a breath in, and then exhale the hips back down onto the heels, and bend the elbows and let the head come to the floor. So come into child's pose. Take a breath in at the bottom. Draw the belly in, drive the shins into the floor, lift ourselves back, and then inhale the chest forwards. Take the exhale, lift the spine again, breath at the top, and then exhale gently back, all the way to the ground, breath at the bottom, exhale it out, lifting back up, inhale the chest forwards, spine lift, breath at the top, roll it back as we exhale, breath at the bottom, exhale to lift, inhale the chest forwards. We'll take a couple more rounds. For the final time back up. that tabletop position. To arrive, we'll tuck the toes underneath, lift the knees away and move into our down dog. I'll allow myself to stretch the legs out a little bit. And finding a happy place. You can decide how much hip movement and shoulder movement you take. You don't have to move. Do ask that you try and keep the hands flat to the floor and the fingers nicely spread out. Spread the weight through. And then we'll slowly bring the knees back down to the floor and take the knees wide so we can come into an even deeper looking child's pose. Take the hands out, shoulder distance apart. Slide those hands as far forward as we can. And then we'll press the fingers into the floor and push back a little bit, drawing the belly in. We start to charge the tailbone towards the back of the mat. We're looking towards the hands and then bringing them over towards the right side. Inhale, we'll lift the head again, come into the center. And then as we exhale, we'll take it over to the left. And come back into the center again. Lift up onto all fours. Now we're going to take down dog. And this time we're going to take down dog. We're scissoring the right leg to the sky. So just lifting that up. And then we're going to bend the knee and bring the heel in towards the bottom. And then draw the knee in towards the chest, keeping that foot flexed. And we take the knee out to the side. So we'll make a big hip circle. That's 1. 2. Try and keep stable through the bottom ankle. Drawing it in for 3. And then sending the foot back up towards the sky at the top to lengthen the leg out. And then keeping the leg straight as we bring the foot back down to the floor. We'll take the left leg up, high as we can. Bend the knee, draw it in towards the chest, holding that familiar feeling in our down dog as we take the knee out to the side, keeping the foot flexed and heel into the buttock for 1, 2. Really strong on the shoulders and the standing leg. 3, coming up and round, and then lengthen that leg out again, slowly up towards the sky, pressing through the toes. When the leg is straight, we bring the foot back down to the floor and let ourselves come back into plank. We'll take a breath here and bring the right foot forwards to the front of the mat. You'll check your knees over your ankle. Let the shoulders roll back a little bit, press out through the back heel. And we'll bring the hands to the floor. Try and step back into the plank. And see if you can bring the left foot through to the front of the mat. So moving from plank into a lunge is a little trickier than down dog into lunge because there's a little bit less space. So it challenges the hips a little more. Always use the hands to bring the foot forwards that last little bit if you need. Belly is drawn in. Head stays in line with the body. Chest lifts a little bit. We press out through the back heel to feel the muscles around the knee start to engage a little bit. Now we're going to step back this time into down dog. Take a nice breath here at the top. And then we'll draw that right knee in towards the chest and bring the foot through into the lunge again, but this time we'll drop the back knee down to the floor. We're going to untuck the toes and then bring ourselves onto our fingertips to lift the chest a little bit, drawing the belly in. Bring the hands onto the front thigh to lift up slowly. Going to press the hands into that thigh, but keep the knee over the ankle. Draw the belly in and lift ourselves up. And then we'll bring the hands back down to the floor. We'll step back into the down dog. Tuck the toes on the back foot and lift gently back up. And we'll bring that left knee in, bring that foot through, let the back knee down to the floor gently so it lands softly. The kneecap has a little bit of chance to adjust. And then bring the hands onto the front side when you're ready. And lift yourself up slowly. Drawing the belly in. Just using a little bit of effort in the hands to draw the shoulders back a little bit and lift the chest high. So it helps us get that little bit of lift in the spine. And then we come down to the floor again. We'll step back into the down dog. And this time we'll take the right foot to the outside of the right hand and let the back knee down gently again to the floor. Untucking the toes. And then I'm going to take the right hand forwards and lift it up towards the sky. I'm going to take it all the way towards the back of the mat and then place my hand onto my left buttock. So not my right buttock, my right hand on my left butt. Lift the chest towards the sky. Let the hips drop a little bit. We'll take that right hand up again. Bring it all the way back down to the floor. Tuck the toe on the back foot and step back gently into that down dog as we exhale. Draw the left knee in and bring that foot to the outside of the left hand. Back knee comes down gently, untuck the toes. When you feel happy on that kneecap, you take the left hand forwards, rotate it up on the breath in, all the way towards the back of the mat. And then left hand finds right cheek. Lift the chest up a little bit more. As you do that, you'll probably find your knee will start to hang out to the side a little more. That's fine. We're trying to lift the chest, so pressing down nicely through that bottom hand to lift the shoulder away from the ear, chest towards the sky. And then we'll release that hand back up towards the ceiling, down to the floor, take a little breath, and we'll come back into our down dog. We'll take a little breath from here. Draw my right knee in towards my chest and bring the foot through to the front of the mat. Bring both hands in and let that bottom knee come down slowly. I'll walk the foot out to the side. So I want my foot pointing out about 45 degrees-ish and heel still on the mat. And I'm going to bring my bolster underneath so that I can lay my forearms down. So I'm not coming all the way down to the floor. It's not the biggest stretch I can manage. It's nicely supported. Could be a couple of bricks underneath the forearms, and if they're in the right place. I draw the shoulders back and lift the chest forward. Let the head follow the spine, which hopefully is flattish. I've still got the back foot tucked under, so the toes are meaning that there's a little bit of flex in the foot. Muscles around the kneecaps are a bit more engaged. Okay, I'm going to move slowly from here. Move my bolster just that little bit forwards. Carefully come back into my down dog. So a big difference in the hips when you lift out of that one. And then draw that left knee in, bring that foot through. As you lower the hands down, bring the hands on the inside and then walk your foot out. So you can place the heel on the mat, toes out to the side. Bring the bolster back underneath. When you're ready, bring the forearms down. Find a comfortable place. Roll the shoulders back with the chest. Keep the head in line with that long, flat spine. Remember, we got the back foot deliberately tucked under just so that the muscles of that leg feel a little bit more engaged. Rather than relaxing down completely, it's doing a little bit of work. It makes it a little bit more comfortable around the kneecap. The left leg hanging out to the side. We'll lift back out of here. Move that bolster forwards or whatever props you used. Step back into my down dog. I'll come down onto the knees now. Back onto the heels and take the block behind the toes. And then bring the hands forwards again. So I come up onto tabletop. Just tucking the toes underneath and bringing the heels back down onto the corner edges of the block. So come into a nice squat. I'm going to just release one foot at a time out to the sides. So just wiggling the groins open, keeping the hands on the floor whilst I do that. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to lift the body up, draw the belly in a little bit, bring the palms into prayer. Draw the shoulder blades back a little bit. Press those elbows into the sides of the knees and thighs, just so that I get a feeling of opening the groins out a little bit more. And obviously a little bit of an opening in the joints while sitting down into the squat. Now, if you don't need the block underneath to be sitting successfully in a squat for a long period of time, that's fine. But it's just a little bit easier on those ankle ligaments if you're a bit tight in the ankles. And then we'll release from here. So I'm going to move back into down dog. I'm just going to lift the heels off the block and take that out to the side. Let the hands come forwards. Send my bottom towards the sky. Turn my feet back into parallel. Walk the hands into the front of the mat. We're going to bring my feet back onto the center line, so toes touch. Pull the left knee in towards the body. I'm going to slide my left knee to the outside of my left elbow as I come forward into plank and bring the heel under the groin for pigeon pose. And then slide the right foot back as far as it can, letting the hips come down to the ground. Draw the belly and lift up onto the fingers. Roll the shoulders back. Now bring the hands to the floor. I'm going to move back into that down dog. So tucking the toes underneath on the back foot, lifting the hips, getting the shoulders to engage, bring the feet back onto the center line. Once I've arrived, take a nice big juicy breath. And on the slow exhale, right knee to the elbow, bring the heel under the body, ease your way down to the floor. Again, just slide that left foot away. Let the hips sink, draw the belly in, roll the shoulders back, lift up on top of the fingertips. So hopefully very little weight into the fingers. A little bit of lengthening out through the back leg. You can press that shin and thigh into the ground a little bit more stretch into that front hip by doing that. Just make sure if you press down into the back leg that the front knee feels comfortable. Just about to finish up here and move ourselves back gently into that down dog. Last time, lifting up and back. And we'll come down onto the knees again, but this time we're going to bring the knees together. I'm going to slide the left knee forwards, cross the foot over, and bring that back. So now I've got my left thigh sitting directly on top of my right leg, and I can take the feet out wide to the sides. See if I can sit back onto the floor. And for most of us, that gets a little precarious. So we take the block, which is still hopefully by the side, and just place that underneath the sitting bones as we reach ourselves down. We'll take the arms out nice and wide as we breathe in and bring that left arm across and the right arm over the top. Bend at the elbows, bring the palms together so we come into an eagle arm version and just roll the shoulders back a little bit. We'll take a few breaths here. And we'll release the hands. Lean forwards, bring the fingers with us. Itsy bitsy spider them out. Come back up onto all fours. Bring ourselves back into that tabletop position. I'll just move the block out to the side, ready for anticipation of kneading. And then when you're ready, you can slide the right foot forwards, or right knee forwards rather, and bring the thighs on top of each other. A little wriggling around can go on. And then we start to take the feet out wide again. Ready, we ease back slowly. Make sure there's no sharp pains in knees, ankles, or hips. Bring the block underneath. Sit ourselves down nice and tall. Arms out wide. And we'll bring the right arm across, left arm over the top. Bend at the elbows, bring the palms together. Breathe easy into the shoulders. Try and relax them down and back a little bit. And we'll release from there. Use your hands to lift up for a final time. Entangle. We come into Dandasana. Why would we do that? We're coming into Shavasana. So I use the block behind, and since I have got a bolster, I'm going to roll that back in and just let my legs have that underneath the back of the knee joints. So there could be a couple of cushions. Something soft is a little bit easier for blood flow. To start off with, I'll bring the knees high and bottom in towards the bolster. Use my hands to roll down gently with control. Make sure the block is under my head, not in the back of my neck. And then just roll that bolster forwards gently so that it's underneath the back of the knees, but my heels are still able to touch the floor. Really important that they're not floating around in the sky. And when they take the hands out to the side, we've got 4 minutes of Shavasana. So we can really let that spine sink down to the floor. Let the shoulders release. Soften the eyes into their sockets. Letting the muscles around the forehead soften as well. allow yourself to start to breathe a little deeper. At the same time, begin to stretch your fingers and toes. Get a little bit of wrist rolling, ankle circles. And then when you're ready, take a big stretch, whatever that looks like this evening. And then we'll slowly draw the knees in towards the body. Or a very loose, easy, gentle hug. We'll take one more breath in. As we slowly exhale, we'll just slowly and gently roll over to the right side and let ourselves come into a nice little ball. Relax into the ground as we take a couple of breaths here. And we can use an exhale. Press our hands into the floor and lift up smoothly. We'll come back into a seated posture, sitting tall. And hands in towards the heart as we take a breath in. And on the exhale, let the chin drop. Draw the belly to the spine, bow to the floor to seal the practice for the evening. Inhale, let the spine lift with the breath. Finally, the head follows, the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this evening and see you on the mat again soon. Take care.